For over a century, scientists and historians understood the rise of human civilization as a strict, logical sequence. In the 1920s, archaeologist V. Gordon Childe defined this progression as the Neolithic Revolution. This timeline begins when warming climates allowed humans to discover agriculture. With a stable food surplus, we stopped following wild game and built permanent cities. Only then, historians assumed, did humanity develop organized religion and monumental temples. This sequence, farm to city to temple, was the unquestioned consensus of archaeology until a single discovery in southeastern Turkey shattered the timeline. This ridge is Göbekli Tepe. It dates back roughly 11,500 years, making it the oldest monumental structure ever discovered. Its scale is difficult to reconcile with the era. Excavations revealed buried enclosures with T-shaped limestone pillars standing 18 feet tall and weighing 40 tons. These monoliths feature intricate, stylized carvings of predatory animals like foxes, vultures, and scorpions, evidence of a community with a highly sophisticated symbolic language. Chronologically, this complex shouldn't exist. It predates the invention of the wheel, the first written languages, and most critically, the arrival of agriculture. Every piece of evidence found in the earliest layers points to a community of nomadic hunter-gatherers. After decades of study, researchers have found no traces of domesticated plants or animals from the time of construction. This site led archaeologist Klaus Schmidt to a conclusion that reversed a century of theory. First came the temple, then the city. The mystery is why a wandering people built a monumental sanctuary and how that act of worship initiated the transition to sedentary life. Quarrying and erecting 40-ton stone pillars requires hundreds of coordinated workers, but there were no cities to house or feed such a force. Archaeologists look to the work feast to explain how hundreds of people were organized without a central government. Commensal hospitality, the promise of immense quantities of food and drink, acted as the incentive for voluntary, collective hard labor. Providing these feasts required a staggering amount of wild game. Hunters had to harvest migratory gazelle on a massive scale just to sustain the workforce. Workers also required carbohydrates, leading to the intensive processing of local wild cereals. These grains were ground in stone mortars and likely brewed into the large amounts of beer needed for ritual celebrations. Over generations, the pressure to supply these massive gatherings forced communities to actively manage wild plant stands. This consistent human selection initiated the long biological process that eventually resulted in domesticated crops. The logistical demand for ritual food created a feedback loop, turning the construction of a sacred space into the catalyst for the invention of farming. Recent findings add a layer of complexity to the site. Göbekli Tepe appears to be more than a remote sanctuary visited by wandering groups. Excavations have uncovered rectangular domestic structures, stone tools, and water management cisterns right alongside the ritual enclosures. By carving the same symbols and gods across the centuries, these people created a community of memory, a shared symbolic culture that endured for generations. This shared culture provided the social glue necessary for humans to tolerate living in close quarters. It allowed previously isolated and territorial bands to form the first stable settlements. The temple acted as the site of both the physical and social transformation of our species, providing the sustenance and the cohesion that allowed the first cities to exist. The old model proposed a sequence where humans farmed first, settled second, and only then built temples. Göbekli Tepe reorders this into a feedback loop. The communal drive for ritual required a reliable food source, which necessitated the farm and eventually the city. Human spiritual behavior, including burials and cave art, stretches back over 100,000 years. Göbekli Tepe is the point where that ancient impulse for the sacred found a permanent home in stone. Our search for communal meaning proved to be the engine of human civilization. Our need to gather and pray built our modern world.